Hi everyone, Nito King again, bringing you more of Space Quest 1, the Sarian Encounter. Last time, Roger managed to escape the Arcado with a cartridge containing who knows what kind of data, and he crash-landed on the desert planet of Kerona in his old pod. And finally we got a piece of glass from this shattered windshield. Although in the remake, it's not really shattered, it just lost one piece. But that's all we're going to need. So let's go ahead and explore the part of the planet where we're not going to get eaten by the Grell. Oh, what's the matter, buddy? Missed your lunch? Once we're over here, the Grell won't attack us anymore, but it's kind of an elephant graveyard sort of thing, except that's one pretty big elephant. Let's see if we can find a way around this big wall. Oh, there's something up there on the top of the some kind of falling object. It doesn't look good. So as you can see, we're being chased by what's essentially a walking proximity mine. Fortunately, when I've cranked the walking speed up a little bit, I can outrun it. And it's also considerably slower than I am on screen transitions. So I can get a good bit of headway. Escape. Oh. This plant looks important. I think I better get a piece of it. Roger, you might want to run. Okay, so that didn't work out so well. Let's try that again, but we'll get the plant before the droid starts chasing me. Because that's a pretty long animation, just to show us that it's a sticky piece of plant. Looks like a Tyrannosaurus arm or something. Oh well, I don't really want to know what that creature is, as long as I don't meet any living ones. And the spider droid again. Well, this time around, I'm going to deal with it properly. And there are actually two ways to handle the spider droid. One of which involves escaping up this ramp, where it can't follow. I guess it can't walk on the uneven surface of the bones, or on slanted surfaces, I don't know. Nice big skull in the background. And over here we see this loose piece of bone. Seems perfect. Just go ahead and wait until the spider droid crosses right under it, which it usually does without taking too much time because I believe this is a fixed pattern. And with impeccable timing, BAM! But now that we're on top of these bones, let's see where the path leads. But of course I want to save before walking across that cracked bone. Well, maybe it'll support my weight, who knows. Well, I did manage to cross it, but it probably won't stand up to repeated crossings. So kind of like the bridge in King's Quest 2, you only get a limited number of crossings. In this case, 2. Total. Ever. So you really can't afford to screw up. Fortunately, I don't think it's possible to fall off this path in this version of the game. And we can investigate what that thing is at the end. Well, I guess we'll have to get closer in order to read it. Something always makes me suspicious about that. And I'm going to turn off the universal translator just so that we can see what it looks like when we're not using it. That's right, a trick elevator. The good news is this is where we wanted to be. And a stalagmite with an obvious and purple crack in it. So naturally we need to take the top portion of it. And it looks like the sticky gunk they used to stick it on there is still there, but we can't take it. Well, we've already got the sticky plant matter. That should be everything we're going to need. And a suspicious grate over the floor. No idea what's down there, but it smells funny. No taste. So let's go ahead and, saving first, cautiously approach it and see what we can see. Whoa! Kinda tentacle monster. I've seen just enough anime to know those things are bad news, but I think I can get past it. See, it's not even touching me. Alright, now the solution to this puzzle is considerably different in the remake than it was in the original. In this version, what we need to do is use the sticky plant matter to distract it. There we go, its little grabby tentacles are pretty firmly stuck now. And now we'll be able to walk past around the grate. You can look at me with that eye tentacle, but can't touch me. Da-na-na-na. Now it's just a perfectly ordinary door. And steam geyser right next to it. Should be pretty obvious, but of course I gotta try all the important options. No idea what Krebel eggs taste like. Anyone who's ever played an adventure game before knows what you do with a steam geyser next to a door. And we can move on and look at that weird green steamy pool. Sounds nice, and it's moisture. And when we can save first, why not? See if we can figure out what it is by smelling it. Well, at least we did figure out what it was. And tasting it naturally will produce much the same effect. And from here it's pretty much the same thing, so rather than sit through the ending sequence, I'll just restore and go on to what's probably one of the funniest game over messages in the entire series. Told you we'd be seeing more of the two guys from Andromeda. Naturally, what we need to do with the pool is absolutely nothing. It's just there to add a couple of extra deaths. Now we've got laser beams. Well, once again, we know that something amusing has to happen if we just stick our hand in there or walk right through. I don't think I can use the hand on it, but I can walk on. Not quite as funny, but I love the image here. And I think those are all the deaths that the two guys from Andromeda actually show up on screen for. Anyway, another obvious solution here, we need our reflective piece of glass, which I sure hope you brought with you. And that's almost the last of the traps. Now we gotta cut back across that upper path you've been seeing, and hopefully while we were in here you noticed the acid drops. Now this section can be really painful to get through. So, let's see how many times it takes me to make it. Okay, I seem to have made it. Now we gotta go back and see what happens if I don't make it. I know it's possible to get dripped on. Just don't know how. There we go. The message itself isn't all that great, but I love that little sound effect. And that's the last of the traps. All we have to do now is move on and see what these traps were meant to protect. Yeah, that guy doesn't look like he needs any protection. And without the universal translator on, I can't understand a word he said, so I get kicked out back into this spot. So I could turn the translator back on and walk all the way back through that whole maze of stuff, but of course I can only cross the bony path twice, and I don't want to waste a chance, so let's just hop back and try that again with the translator on. My kingdom for a horse. So we've got our mission, and we know why we can cross that bone twice, because now we need to go find an Orat and kill it. And I wonder if maybe it's living inside that little hole in the bone there. Well, only one way to find out. Alright, I don't think that was Orat. Now hopefully you remember that skull that we saw when we were up on the path. This is Orat's home. Oh, and it looks like I'm getting thirsty. Like I mentioned before, we've got that canteen of dehydrated water. I want to see what happens if I don't drink any. You know, dehydration sure seems to be setting in quickly. Might not have to wander around forever like in, say, King's Quest V. Or worse, King's Quest VII. Alright, so before going in to meet Orat, we'd better take a drink. Make sure we don't die. And of course, save again, just in case Orat kills us, so I don't have to remember to take another drink. And there's Orat. He looks happy. Oh. Yes, I can't talk him out of it. I love the tiny picture they've got there. But unfortunately, we don't want to get turned into that tiny picture, so let's just go ahead and kill this guy. And he'll eat anything, so let's see what he thinks about having about 50 gallons of water inside his stomach. Guess he didn't like it very much. And that's the proof of death that I needed. So let's take a shortcut back here. You can only ever ride down the elevator twice, so it doesn't have any additional messages for you. The good news is that we don't have to do anything about these traps again, because most of them are already sprung. One downside is we still have to get past the acid. And it's just as dangerous as it was the first time. Unfortunately, something went a little wrong with my recording after this point, and I had to go back and do that again. And again. And again. Eventually I'll make it work. Somehow. What you're supposed to do is stand in these holes between the drips, but running through will work sometimes. It's the Wizard of Oz! Alright, so basically we have our ticket out of here. Guess it's the best they could afford to give away. They've got a computer over here. I kind of wonder whether maybe I can use that to see what's on this data cartridge. But I'm not going to do that this time around. Save that for next episode. But before moving on to the bonus feature from the original Space Quest, I have to show you the other way to deal with a spider droid. Now, of course, I didn't show you this before because it pretty much gives away the rest of the plot of this area. But all you need to do is lead it back to the Orat's cave. Always a good idea to save before going in, just in case, and... And yes, exactly as it sounded, you get the points for killing both of them just through that one action. Plus, you don't need to give up your canteen. I think the most interesting difference in the original version is that it was just rock. The entire canyon, everything is made out of rock. Whereas it was bones in the remake. And here's the hole with the Death Beast inside. This is a lesson Roger will never learn. Over in this section, we have the familiar plant. We can get it, but in this version it doesn't do us any good. I don't think you even get any points for it, it's just there. In the remake, as you saw, they made it a mandatory collection. And somewhere around here, in these, don't want to get eaten by the grill. But up there you can see where the elevator is that leads to the underground section. And somewhere around here, I don't know which screen it's in, but there's a spot where if you're standing there, you can actually get squashed by the spider droid when it lands. I wasn't able to find that, but there's the spider droid. Same message they had in the remake, and I happen to be standing right next to it. That was kind of dumb. Let's go check out the Orat cave, which again is just a cave instead of a big skull. And here's the rock you can hide behind. And then I get too close to the rocks and he grabs me anyway. You look so happy. Alright, so I'll try again. This time I want to lead the spider droid into the cave, so I'll wait for it to fall. There it is. And into the cave, where the Orat doesn't seem to be anymore. See if I can get his attention. I can't. Yeah, in this version of the game, the Orat doesn't appear if you lead the spider droid into the cave. In fact, I think as long as the spider droid is on the surface, you can't get the Orat to appear. And it is possible to lead it over to the right side and sneak out past it, but it wasn't fast enough. So it's time to put on our Wile E. Coyote hat and see if we can crush this thing a different way. Just wait to hit enter until it gets under the rock, but of course that takes forever, so I sped it up a bit. First try. I amaze myself. And, of course, having destroyed the spider droid that way, I have to kill the Orat with the only other means at my disposal. I don't know, you think 10 gallons would really be enough to blow up something that big? Well, then again, it is a sci-fi setting, so who really cares about realism? So, just jump ahead a little bit and ride down this elevator. And in this version, there's just a rock sitting right there on the ground that I need to pick up, rather than a very obvious stalagmite. There's the familiar grate. And the tentacle monster doesn't appear no matter how close I get to the grate until I actually walk across. Just as deadly, though. And in this version, like I said before, trying to use the plant doesn't seem to do anything. If anyone knows a way to make this work, let me know. But the only solution I've ever found, after looking down just to see if the description was any different, just press yourself up against the wall and sneak past and they can't grab you. I tried doing that in the remake the first time and it didn't work. I was very surprised to see that. So then we get to the acid pool room. Again, there's no point to the acid pool, it's just a trap. But I was pretty sure there was a way to die here. You know, something you can do to the liquid, so I tried touching it. Tried getting it. I tried pretty much everything I could think of. I'm pretty sure drinking it is what you're supposed to do. Or rather, what would cause you to die. But I can't get him to do it. I even tried typing drink liquid a second time just to see if that would, you know, maybe the game was screwing with me or something, but no. Can't swim in it. And you can't jump anywhere in the game. So I just decided to give up and move on, and it's kind of a hidden exit to the room, I guess. That's the puzzle there. And then we've got the really loud and obnoxious lasers. Again, all you need to do is hold the piece of glass in the beam. A much more difficult puzzle in this version, only because the glass is harder to find. And then I had to see what happens if I fall off the upper level. No death. If you fall off the rocks outside, you will die. And even a second fall. I thought maybe the second time he might actually land on his head or something. And there are times in these games where if you do the same thing multiple times, it'll kill you. I think we'll be seeing one of those in the next episode. But then there's the acid drops. Didn't want to bore you with the actual process of getting past, but wanted you to see what happens when you die. So moving on to the alien hologram. Looks a lot different in this version. Sounds about the same. And just to show you, he sends me back to the surface on this side of the crumbling rock. So I have to walk back across it, say, to get to the Orat cave. I'll go ahead and turn the gadget on just so you can see what he actually says. Pretty much the same thing as was said in the remake, although this time, if you remember, I have the Orat part already. And even in the remake, there was nothing preventing me from bringing it the first time. I just wanted you to see him tell me to go get it. Nicely animated action there. And then once the door opens, I actually have to press up to walk through it. Whereas in the remake, that was automated. And the lab looks a little different. But he gives exactly the same speech. And there's the skimmer. Also looks a lot smaller. A little less blue, a little more black and white. Like a police skimmer. And, of course, one final thing to show you. If you haven't yet dealt with a spider droid when you go talk to the guy and he tells you to kill Orat, now you can return to the surface and lead them together. So that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time when we'll ride the skimmer to Eulent's Flats. And yes, the name is supposed to be a pun. See you guys then.